We are broadcasting from RegenWeek. I have the pleasure to be here today with Eddie Cervantes. He is the founder of Blossomshire, a design and build company for cities, towns, and communities. So we get to pick his brain about what's exciting him in the space right now. So let's just jump in right to what is Blossomshire and the intention behind it.
Yeah, so Blossomshire is company that is designed to help new projects or emerging projects come up with solutions for the things that humans need for survival and thrival. Mm-hmm. So meeting those metrics through whatever technologies are available, whether they're contemporary technologies or even looking back at more ancient technologies and what people might call indigenous technologies, and reapplying them to whatever structure it is. So it could be anything from like a few houses community to thousands and thousands of units, and it's all depending on each project is unique.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Awesome. So we might even be able to equate this word you just used, thrivival, with regeneration. So let's talk about the way these principles of regeneration, thrivival, manifest in the design and build part of Blossomshire.
Blossomshire, yeah.
And maybe tell us what a shire means to you, yeah?
Right, sure,
yes.
sure, yeah. So whenever we were coming up with a name for the company, we wanted to have something that kind of encapsulated the essence of what we wanted to create. And blossoms are the fruit or the pre-fruit of any living being, and it's what helps kind of either create life or feed life. And then the Shire, usually if people know what the Shire is, they associate it with this very organic and kind of close-knit, supportive community that is full of hobbits, but really happy people overall that are agrarian in various ways and living in symbiosis with nature. Like even their homes look like a hill, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not so much that our buildings are going to look like hills. We're very much open to going vertical, going horizontal, going down, whatever needs to happen, wherever it needs to happen. But I think that's part of that's part of the question, right? And you asked about the survival and thrival. Yeah, so I believe I had not heard the word thrival before I came up with it, but I might have not have come up with it, And so when I started to think about what systems are necessary for human survival, you have the things that are known, like water, energy. I mean, energy, not necessarily, right? But water, food, shelter, community. And those are, and especially during the most recent kind of shutdown pandemic, there's this whole, what are the essential workers? What are the essential things for our society to run? Mm-hmm. What wasn't mentioned what are the thrival metrics? Like what is going to help our society thrive, our community be the healthiest versions of themselves? And so part of our mission is to help identify those thrival metrics and then also find methods to fulfill those metrics. And we do so, and the aspiration is that we would be able to calculate the total human hours necessary for meeting the survival needs, and then also calculating the total human hours necessary for meeting the thrival needs through various businesses and various applications. If we're able to calculate that, which I believe that we are, there's going to be some speculation in the process, but as it's being built, you get data that hones it in closer. Then you're able to really help know where you need to educate your citizens and where you need to apply resources so that our processes can be optimized, and eventually people need to work less and less, because if we're working through optimization of the systems that are in place to meet those survival and thrival needs, then maybe we only need to work 3 months out of the year, and the rest of the time we're just hanging out because everything's so well oiled and running that It's just there. And as a citizen, maybe you can just go into the grocery store and swipe your card or whatever it is and take whatever groceries you need. That's a basic example.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah.
So I imagine as a design and build company, you've done market research on trends in the industry of creating these types of new communities. In this sector, what have you seen as the most exciting emerging trends? What trends are you adopting in being this type of company that's approaching development in this specific, fundamentally regenerative way?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I think the application of technologies is different depending on the size of the project. There's this company that I saw recently that's building these, what are they calling it? Family, kind of not retreats, but compounds is what they're saying. Family compounds. And I really liked how they packaged their product in a way that, like they said, you can buy an add-on of getting a cattle farm and like a chicken farm and like a food forest. And you can select how many rooms you have and how many houses, because like maybe you're going in with your family or friends to buy all this land and to build this compound on. And that seems really cool for that more homesteady or like I'm wanting to be off-grid and away from society kind of crowd, which is fair and valid. And then there's the other end of the spectrum. Like one of the projects that we're involved with is a city that's currently under pre-development. It's 1,100 acres, owned outright by a family trust. It's 1 hour south of Washington, D.C., and it's zoned to be able to build around 8,600 units, 1,000 hotel rooms, and something in the tune of 18 million square feet of commercial space. And so they don't necessarily want to build just contemporary developments. And so we're in the middle of trying to figure out what technologies would apply there. And so earlier this week, I had a talk with a company that does geothermal heating and cooling of spaces. And they were telling me about they use Freon instead of water and the benefits of using that for their systems. And their application, they told me that max would be a 2-story building. So their systems would not necessarily work in this like 8,000 person town because we're gonna be looking at least 4-story buildings in most of the places, if not like 8 to 10, maybe taller in like the central areas. And so figuring out how to cool and heat the spaces regeneratively, we're planning on doing a geothermal energy production facility that would have that continuous energy and creating outputs of energy beyond the city, so it would meet all the city's needs, and then we become like a producer, for the surrounding communities. And so that's, thinking about the parameters. It's curious because like you asked about the trends, like there's so many cities popping up all over. There's Saudi Arabia and Egypt and the U.S. has a few different projects, more than a few different projects. Mexico has one in Cancun's building a smart city, or a forest city, smart forest city, and it's nice to see everybody going in that direction. It's really easy to say what you want to do. I think being able to figure out ways to feed all your people and give them power and clean water, it's a big feat. So. It's nice to see that new developments are going in that trend. However, I don't feel like I see just the regular housing developers doing that as much as I would like to. And so one of the things that we want to do, we're involved with this city project in Virginia. We're also working on figuring out the right scale and economies of scale point to figure out how many houses we need to build so that the house cost is accessible to the average buyer of houses. So like $200,000, $300,000 homes that are mortgageable and that can be bought with whoever's bank is financing it, and I think that's the key to really getting these trends to catch on faster. I do notice that a lot of these developers are creating these very utopic sanctuaries that are kind of inaccessible in terms of price for the average consumer and the average person. And while we could go that direction, I'm not really interested in going in that direction. I'm really interested in figuring out that sweet spot, you know, and there's more than a few sweet spots to figure out. You know? It's all depending on the location, you know. Yeah.
Right. So this project in DC is obviously one that Eddie's really excited about because it in the spectrum of like ranchise, selling family compounds, to redesigning cities that are going to happen anyway, but infusing them with regenerative principles. It falls more on the spectrum of cities. And this is like a high density, new type of municipality that's going to be established. So what I'm really interested in is a few things, because we obviously see this trend of real estate merging with regenerative principles. What particularly, you know, you talked about some of the technologies that are going to be implemented in there. What particularly makes it regenerative? You touched a little bit on social regenerative practices, such as making it accessible economically, which is a hot topic in the space. What are some other ways of technologies that you're excited to implement in this?
Yeah, so one of the first questions that this group asked me is, how can we feed 200,000 people a day organically from this land?
Food self-sufficiency.
And that, if you're asking what I need help. Help me figure it out. You know, so I do want to, I know that it's possible to create these closed loop systems. I almost 100% sure we're going to need to do some vertical farm kind of buildings, you know, maybe skyscrapers that are vertical farms that have. And again, these are all things that we can calculate, right? Like we can calculate how many tomatoes, how many potatoes, how many onions, how many of the different things we need a day to feed all these people. With those numbers, then we can deconstruct, work backwards and say, okay, then that means that we need this many things of these many things, right? And so my thought is that if we have an energy that is being produced by the earth that's not dependent on wind or sun or things of that sort, then it's just continuously, day in, day out, producing the same amount of power. So we can calculate the lights and the things. And if it's also vertical farming, then you can go inside and kind of protect it from the elements. So there's like less chances, in theory, of crop failure. So it creates a little bit of stability and security for the people in that way. And I'm also curious of how to make the green spaces of the communities, like the parks and the social spaces, have an integration with both food and medicinal plants, you know, and having people be reconnected with those beings, and it kind of reconnects us to our humanity. You know, I feel like today's society, almost like nature's out there, and we're in here, and we're two separate things. But figuring out how to mesh those things together. And then also I want to make the best possible effort to get rid of trash in this whole system. Like the concept of trash is that it's something that we don't have another use for, and we're just going to go put it in a landfill, and that's it, you know. And then there's some efforts towards recycling, but if you look at trends recently, it seems like our recycling really is just shipping it to other countries at times, and it just ends up in another landfill way further away, you know. And so figuring out how to create products that the waste is then being reused for something else. And there's some really exciting technologies coming out for all the different areas. Like I genuinely believe that the solutions are all already here on planet Earth. They're all already here. We just got to figure out which ones to apply where, have like almost like a, you know, selection of technologies, and like maybe even like a questions of like, okay, what are the things that you're wanting to accomplish? And then gradually it gives, like you can provide a solution to those things. And then provide a price point as well that's realistic and also not super inflated just for the sake of it being a trendy new spicy thing.
Definitely. Okay, so just give me a yes or no. Would you be willing to make this project in DC a trashless city?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay.
I would love for that to be the case.
Right on. And I don't know if anybody caught that, but he's looking for someone who can help with optimizing vertical farming for a high density city outside of DC, someone who can help him crack that code. If you know of anyone, please reach out to Eddie Cervantes. Where can people find you?
My email is stag, S-T-A-G, like the deer, the animal, at blossomshire.org. Our website is currently being tweaked and finalized to be able to receive support. But that's one of the best ways to reach me right now is through that email, and we can have conversations. Vertical farming is a solution we're interested in. The question is, though, how do we feed 200,000 people organically every day, or as close as possible? So I'm open to a multitude of solutions. So.
Awesome. Any final words?
Yeah, there's a lot of other aspects of being able to provide all the needs of a community, especially if it has 8,600 homes. So not only food, any other social, economic practices, building styles. Like we're looking at prefab skyscrapers as a method of maybe initially getting some of our buildings going. However, we're open to receiving different styles of technologies and creating partnerships with the right businesses so that we can succeed together. One of the things I love to say is that it takes a village to make a village, and so we need more villagers. Yeah.
Right on. Thank you, Eddie. You're the future of cities. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Well, aren't we lucky? We're here at RegenWeek, and we are sitting with Kamara Kassan, a weaver of people, organizations, and projects. So let's get into your regenerative journey. What has it been like so far?
Well, my regenerative journey started when I had my first child. I was 21, I was studying science in university, and I got pregnant. And due to the way things turned out, I decided to keep the baby. And when she was born, I suddenly realized that the world was a mess and that the world wasn't necessarily safe for my children. And that was when I started changing my dietary habits and my living habits. And I decided to go to school and study permaculture and earth-based vocations and more sciences. And so eventually I ended up with a permaculture design certificate and a natural building and energy system certificate. And then I went and studied environmental science technology. So my regenerative journey really started in 2002 when she was born and has continued up until now.
And as an environmental science technologist, someone with background in permaculture, someone with passion about technology and agriculture, how is that manifested into a project that you're excited about?
Well, I've been working on a lot of different projects over the years, and one of the things that I'm really good at is finding different systems and technologies and people and weaving them together where I see there's compatibility and synergy. And my passion is to help to design cities of the future that are regenerative and circular, good for people, good for the planet, and helping us to get out of this hole we're in. And so a little more than a year ago, I saw this documentary called The Need to Grow.
Right.
And The Need to Grow is all about this biorefinery that takes waste biomass, which can be like woody waste from timber mills or seed hulls or husks or even hemp stalks. And we pyrolyze it, or they pyrolyze it, and make biochar. And in the process, they actually feed these emissions back to algae in these algae ponds inside of this biorefinery, which is like a big greenhouse. And the algae eats up all that carbon, and then the algae is biodigested, and it makes this biostimulant fertilizer, soil amendments with the biochar, and electricity, because we're producing a gas. I keep saying we, but in the past it wasn't we, it was them. Now it's we.
Oh yes, claim it.
So when I saw this technology, I was like, wow, we can grow organic food, we can heal soils, we can restore ecosystems, and we can power communities all at the same time. Like, this is dialed in. We need this technology in our systems, in the communities that I'm designing, in the cities. Like, let's just get more of that. So I hunted down the inventor on social media, and I messaged him, and I told him about my journey and how much I wanted to talk to him. And I must have caught him on a good day, because he responded. And he said, hey, Kamara, I can see you are keen and I would love to talk to you. And so we spent 2 hours on the phone just in this synergy of talking about ideas and explorations and technologies and science and algae and healing the earth and energy and all the things. And that was when I first got involved with Regenitech. And mostly I started out as a volunteer and started spending more time with Michael Smith, and developed a role for myself in the company where I coordinate now both investment and sales and customer service, and just supporting as best I can with what I have.
What a cool journey of you reaching out and making that connection, and then weaving with someone in a sector that is so aligned with your background. I feel that it's like you made like, oh, I'm carving out this niche for myself. How wonderful that you made that leap. So my curiosity immediately goes to, what does Regenitech do?
So basically, Regenitech creates products that restore soils and feed plants, and feed people from waste. So we're sequestering carbon by turning this waste into biochar. We're improving and amending the soil. We're healing the microbiome of the soil. we're growing nutrient-dense organic food, or you could use it to restore forests or feed fruit trees, or like the possibilities of this stuff are endless. So what do we do? Electricity, organic biostimulants and soil amendments, and natural non-toxic pesticides and herbicides. But it's actually just wood vinegar, so pyroligneous acid, which is formed in the process. So everything that comes out of this thing is good for the world.
So what kind of people work for RegenTech? What are the roles? Engineers, permaculturalists? What does it look like?
Well, right now we're a pretty small organization. We have the inventor, Michael Smith, and his wife are the co-founders and the main operators of RegenTech. And then we have our tech, our CTO, our tech guy, and a software engineer. We've got a crew building. But really, we're looking to expand our team in the near future. So this year,
the type of people you're looking for.
This year we are scaling. So we're bringing in some partnerships. We've got some systems on deck, and I actually built a new website for RegenTech and it's regenitech.earth, where people can learn more about the Earth Power Lodges. And they can fill out a form to submit interest if they want to build one and own and operate one. I mean, these aren't cheap units. They basically start at $2.5 million and go up from there. However, the return on investment is really quick. Like within 2 years, you've covered that and you're making profit. So what I would love to see with this is groups of people coming together in cooperatives or private member associations and doing it as a team, right? Put in the money together, replenish the earth together, make income together. It just makes sense. So I'm working on forming a cooperative right now to do that. So RegenTech does the design and planning and consulting, and we're basically a technology and software company, an artificial intelligence company, because the whole biorefinery is actually an intelligent system that Michael designed called the Natural Solutions Engine. So we've got sensors throughout the thing that are monitoring the CO2 and the pH and the algae and all the processes. And then it feeds that data into a computer, which then optimizes the levels and changes things. You know, it can like change the pump here, or change the airflow here, or change the temperature there. So it self-optimizes the system. So what we aim to do is to create a vast network of these intelligent Earth regeneration stations that are all optimizing for what's best for the plants in that area, for growing the food, for healing the soil, and for good production, you know, like optimizing the efficiency of the unit. So yeah, that's all about that.
Yes. So it sounds like you guys are really focused on, well, actually, no. So what kind of trends, it sounds like you're incorporating technology, incorporating optimization of systems. What other trends in this space of designing companies that help build these types of systems?
Yeah.
Like what other trends are you, what can we learn from you in what RegenTech is doing different?
Well, our motto is decentralize everything. So we're trying to our model is decentralized, to spread these out, to not just have like one big one, but to have a whole network, and to spread out the data storage and potentially have our data held in a decentralized network of all the different nodes in the system. And then we can also support a potential movement towards regenerative currencies, because we produce electricity and we produce truly regenerative products while sequestering carbon. This is a no-brainer. So that's what I'm really excited about.
Yes. And how are you excited to see that applied in regenerative community design?
Well, that's a good question. Like we haven't built out the system yet for how do we measure and mint and create a currency based on the regenerative outputs. So that's definitely a few years down the road, and it is mostly just an idea floating around in my mind right now. But how I could see it integrating into community is that, like currently our monetary system is based on extraction. So extracting the gold, extracting the soil, like you're mining the nutrition out of the soil, taking one thing and inflating its value and selling it off. And I just foresee a system, we need a monetary system for the future that actually increases the health of the planet instead of people being paid to destroy it. Because I truly believe that people are doing the best they can with what they have. And when presented with a better option that's convenient for them, they will take it. But if my children are starving and somebody tells me that they're going to pay me a few months worth of food to go cut down that tree, and my kids are starving, even if it's a sacred tree, that tree's probably coming down, you know, because our survival instincts are so strong. And so I think the vast majority of people on Earth are just struggling to get by and survive. And they don't even if they know and understand the complexities of the meta crisis and the environmental collapse and the economic system, they don't have the resources to take action, and they feel powerless and helpless. So if we can create a way where people can transact monetarily that heals the planet and provides food and shelter and money for people, then it's just a no-brainer. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, and I want to see that too.
Awesome.
Yes. So, what kind of final words are you wanting to offer in this like design of new systems and technologies that support this regenerative transition?
Well, final words would be to anybody who's watching this that is an investor. I strongly encourage you to take some of your money and put it into regenerative technologies and systems and impact funds now, because the world needs your support now, and it's going to benefit you and your descendants because it's the only way through. So those are my final words.
So naturally this follows, right? Regenitech is still in its early stages. You said it's dynamic. You guys are expanding.
It is. Yeah.
There's still some things that you're putting into your models. Is it open for funding? Is it open for accepting private investment? That's a
so at the
question.
moment we're good for private investment just now. However, we are looking for people who want to build and own and operate systems. We have a licensing agreement. So. If you have the resources, can build and own and operate a unit, and the money made from that are yours, except for the licensing cost. So at the moment, if people want to get on board and support and invest, that's where they can invest, is in building their own. Okay. And whether or not they run it or hire somebody to run it, that's the best spot. Okay,
excellent. Yeah. And just a few more words, I guess, about how you see yourself in this regenerative movement, participating in RegenWeek. What's the significance for you?
I just really want my children to be able to swim in rivers and eat healthy food and to be able to play outside. I really want to have grandchildren that can go whale watching. I would love for my grandchildren to see the day when humanity says, we cannot find plastic in the ocean. It's gone.
I have goosebumps. Do you see them?
I have them too.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, Kamara. You're incredible. Thank you. Regen Week has been bringing together some of the most inspired individuals and organizations in the topic of regenerative principles, regenerative community building, and everything in between. So we are super lucky to be presenced by Frances Pimentel. She is a passionate regenerator and a principal equity holder in Smart Green Group. So we get to know about her ideas of regenerative principles. So Frances, please tell us what regeneration means to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here, and so good to see you. And thank you also for the work that you're doing. It's amazing. I'm enjoying reading all your posts and everything, so also super inspiring. So for me, I guess I like to go back to kind of my journey in regeneration and how it started. I don't feel like I really knew what the word or what it was about at all several years ago. I really just started in a sustainability path, in a path of just wanting to learn more about sustainable development projects in real estate because I didn't really want to sell projects that were not sustainable. I started to learn about the damage in the construction industry, and that was the path that I went down in, and I just went, I like to say, down the rabbit hole. And I don't think that's ever going to stop, but I started to take courses with the Regenesis Institute. Really studied those particular frameworks per se. So for me, when I'm looking at regenerative development or regeneration, it has to do with catalyzing life, obviously. So when however you're showing up in the world is really, to me, it's as simple as responding a text in a timely manner. To me, it's as simple as like just really how you're reacting to anyone. So it has to do a lot with your inner work. And that's something that I've learned in my journey because I have been, I've like, wow, I'm not regenerative. I'm not being regenerative right now. And so it's becoming aware of where you're not showing up in the world in a way that you're catalyzing life and that you are being, towards whatever person you're speaking to and towards whatever place in the place that you're in. And it's, if you relate it directly to land-based projects, to me, it's not just about having all of the technical aspects of what a regenerative project needs to have, which is, net positive in energy, net positive in water, circular economy and all that. It's really about how you're tying that project and what that project is doing for the local people. The people, like, how is that project becoming a catalyst of life for the locals in a way that allows them and empowers them to be able to thrive and flourish as a result of, I would say, as a side result of what that project has brought to their lives. And that may be through doing, a project that may bring about new local businesses that they're part owners in and that sort of thing. So being true to the essence of the place and the people. And then I can maybe expand a little bit into that later on as to our approach on how we kind of find that out. But really, that's the main things. Inner work, like showing up in the world to others. And that's not possible all the time. We're never going to be regenerative all the time. We have to first deal with ourselves, and I'm very much in that journey. And then really, as it relates to projects, is catalyzing life, getting all of the basics, but also making sure that the local people that actually, who that land belongs to, and where it came from, that they are being taken care of and they are regenerated as well.
Yes, hell yes. And actually, I know for a fact that Frances has gone deep into the regenerative rabbit hole. She's certified with the Regenesis Group's the Regenerative Practitioners course. Yeah. You've done the Regenerative Leadership program with Laura Storm. And so let's maybe talk about this trend of regen washing, because I know that's a trend in the industry, specifically in like regenerative real estate development, which you specialize in. So let's just get right into it, because that ties deeply into the very rigorous standards that you uphold and the frameworks that you've learned around regenerative design. So let them at it.
So, I mean, so I'm starting again. This whole journey for me, a lot of things have been shifting for me throughout the whole journey. The reality is there is a ton of green wash, there's a ton of regen wash. I'm trying to look at things from the perspective now of who actually is doing something positive, and how can we take that project and how can we, help them improve in becoming truly regenerative. But the first thing that needs to come into play is there has to be will. That developer, that organization, it doesn't have to be just real estate related project. It can be regenerative organizations. I mean, you have a regenerative Walmart, for God's sakes. They're calling them in Mexico here. So it's like,
No way.
Walmart regenerativo. And it's like, like how can you call a Walmart regenerative? But it's also going into looking at the opportunities that obviously it's become a buzzword. So a lot of people are using it, and so hey, how can we help you? How can we help you do this? You want to accomplish that? You want to be regenerative? Let's be a catalyst for regeneration with these organizations. And as it relates to the regen wash out there, I mean, I think a lot of the regenerative movement is aspirational in many aspects. I mean, there's so many aspirational projects. It's our utopia, and I know we believe in this. I know you do, and I do, and it's obvious that the amount of people that are here right now this week, we believe that this is possible, but we're also doing the work. We're engaging, with amongst ourselves, with the community. We're understanding. I like to say that we're going through a purification process. That's kind of the way I view it is, we're learning. How a certain person is, and really also embracing each other in a way that we may have not embraced each other if we hadn't done events such as this one, so that we can then go on to the next level. I think everything starts with the relationships as well. If you cannot really catalyze change at a planetary scale, if you're not aligned relationship-wise. So and Regen Wash, essentially, I think that Tulum, for example, is a place that I'm extremely passionate about. This place changed my life in many ways. It's been ups and downs, and I care a lot, deeply, not just about Tulum, about really all of the land, but I do believe that this place has the potential of becoming an example, and I haven't lost hope yet. I really have not lost hope yet for becoming an example for regenerative development if the right things are done, if the right people come together, and we have like pilot projects, which is happening here, and so we can kind of turn things around and engaging with government, engaging with locals that are doing things here, and doing away with all of the projects out there that are saying that they're regenerative and not even net positive. Put it that way. I mean, when you're a real estate project, you're giving back more, so you should be at least net positive. So if you're not net positive, try not to call yourself regenerative. But then again, there's other aspects that go into play here. So for me, essentially, and as it relates to my approach and our approach, I like to say our approach because there's also different approaches that I think are great as well, and there's a lot of different thought schools that are incredible. What I'm finding is that there's some overlap, but I like to learn from all of the different schools. Like I just joined Joy Brewer's class for Design School for Regenerating the Earth, and they're focused on bioregional regeneration. So I think that there's every thought school I believe complements each other. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with any of the work that everybody else is doing. I think it's just about joining forces and coming together. But the one aspect that I do believe is very important is the locals and the people, the people and place. I mean, really place sourced, projects that it's place sourced everything, and that the locals are really not being gentrified, because that's also a huge problem that we're seeing in places like Tulum, like Costa Rica, like Las Terrenas in the Dominican Republic, where we have incredible people going there with incredible projects, which it's like, I consider myself to be part of the problem. Like I look at it and I'm like, okay, I'm a part of the problem here. I'm not living, I would be back in Miami or back in Dominican. How can I be a part of the solution? That's my personal quest, if you will. And focusing on that aspect of things, so.
Well, I love that you embody this principle of lifelong learning. You're obviously very passionate. You want to learn and grow and really have an informed approach. And it's definitely very hopeful that many organizations and projects have at least demonstrated a commitment, however minimal it is, to embracing regeneration.
Exactly.
And so
it starts there. It starts with something, and then from there you continue. It's a little fire that's burning, and then you keep expanding it.
Yeah, we've acknowledged that it's definitely worth looking at. Like, you have to embrace it. So what are the commitments, like the regenerative commitments that you have in the work with Smart Green Group? And maybe you can tell us a little bit about what it is, what the concept is, and what you do.
So we're gonna talk a little bit more about it on the real estate forum on Saturday. I'm gonna be on a panel. I'm not gonna go really deep into it because it's really not the opportunity, not the moment as of yet. But when we are working on a regenerative development project, we use a framework called Story of Place. So we actually go back thousands of years to identify how that land was formed. So we look at the geomorphology of the place. We're looking at the immigration patterns of the place. And we're really looking at how the system, the whole systems evolved throughout all of the years in that place, so that then we can determine what's called a vocation of place. And know that the project is actually designed, you don't actually do any kind of a design until you do that deep study, and obviously the normal studies that have to be done as it relates to the land, but this is just an additional framework that goes into it. And then the other aspect that is important as to how we work, or how we're aiming to work, is our integrative design process. So when we're going to take on a regenerative development project, we really, the team, the community is a part of the project. The project is not the project, the community is the project. So really we're looking at the proximate whole, and then we're looking at the greater whole. And so the community is a part of the design. So we do what's called, in this process of the integrative design process, you bring in the community, the different stakeholders in the community. This can be, all of the influential people. You can be the indigenous leaders. I mean, as many community members that you can identify that are key stakeholders in what can happen with this project. They are coming in early, and you do several design charrettes. So you're having these design charrettes along with the investors. You're having these design charrettes along with the design team. The design team is selected at an early stage. So you're essentially coming in, and you have your architectural, your A&D team, you have your construction team. Everyone is aware of what's happening, and that what we're aiming to do from the very beginning. There's full transparency also. So, there's not like, generally you're going in and you hire an architect, and then the design is done. Most of them have a concept and haven't actually even looked at the land yet, and what that land felt out that land, what that land is about. And then you're going into the hiring the architect, and then you hire the construction team later on, and there's a lack. So this is a process where everybody comes together at the first stage, and so it expands the potential of the project and what that project can become.
So that's like a brief look, obviously, into the process of
A
working
very
with
brief.
Smart Green
There's
Group.
a whole. I mean, you can sit on a book that's this long, and we bring in experts for that. That's the other thing. We are collaborating. I mean, we come from the thought school, but we're also working with our teachers in the project, in this work. So.
Excellent. Do you have any requests or needs, or in what ways is Smart Green Group growing that you could use
Thank you
support?
for asking that. I appreciate it. So my business partner, Michael McGilligan, is Australia based, but I'm in the process of really developing and building an ecosystem, primarily in the places that I love, Latin America. We're looking for landowners and government, and just other people in the work that we can collaborate with, that can engage with us, and that are interested in approaching real estate projects, regenerative real estate projects, in this approach, that are committed and have the willpower to take on this journey with us. And so to sit down, have a conversation, and how can we make this happen to catalyze life in all the places that we're at. So that's really what we're looking for at the moment.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, could this be you? Is this you? If so, reach out to Francis. Any final words that you would like to close on? How can people get in contact with you?
Francis I Pimentel N as my Instagram account, and that's my WhatsApp 786-901-3872. If that's the best way to reach me. And the only thing I'd like to add is I'm inspired. I'm grateful to be here, honored, really, truly honored to be here, inspired by all of you and the work that everybody out there is doing. I just left a message to my mom, and I says, we're changing the world here. So I'm just grateful to everybody that's here and that's doing this work, doing this deep work, and grateful for others that are coming in to learn more about what we're doing, what we're aiming for. So thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francis.
Amazing. Hello, everyone. So I'm super excited to be interviewing Nicole Reese today over here. I'm actually really enjoying her work. So Nicole Reese is a regenerative village researcher and designer. She is working multiple projects, but she's a part of Regen Tribe, Eco Villa, and her own project, Serenity. Welcome, Nicole. So glad to happy to have you here. And
Francis, can we try that one more time?
Hello, everyone. So grateful to be here, and I'm very excited to be here with Nicole Reese. Nicole Reese is a regenerative village researcher and designer, and she's extremely inspiring to me. So I'm excited to be interviewing her today as well, and learning a lot about all of the research that she's been doing. She's with the Eco Villa. She's also with Regen Tribe, and she has her own project, Serenity. And so welcome, Nicole. So happy to have you here. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more yourself about your projects and about how you even started in regeneration? Just expand a little bit on all of this, please.
Definitely. Thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
So I have a background in anthropology, and through the study of the patterns of humanity, the history that we have leading up to this point, this crucial point we are at in the whole space of where we're at as a species, it becomes clear to me that regeneration is one of the most important social movements of our time, because it combines all of the aspects that we need to continue to sustain life on Earth and to deepen and reinvent and redesign the ways in which we relate to each other, both as humans, both as biological creatures, and our unique place in the ecosystems that we live in. So with this lens, I've been approaching eco-village design for a while now in this new wave of regenerative village design, which incorporates all of the new tech, all of the principles and frameworks that you are very familiar with as well, into the design of local scale human settlements that fully embody self-sufficiency, where you grow your own food, you filter your own water, you manage your own waste, like designing circular societies. And to me, I'm obsessed. I've been obsessed with this for 6 years. For the past 3 years, I've been really lucky to call this a paid career of researching, traveling to visiting communities and working with them and consulting them to build, because a lot of these communities fail. And so what I've been really interested in is how do we document the best practices through research and data collection.
It's so needed, so absolutely needed, because all of us that are in this movement are looking to understand what else is out there. I recently read one of your articles, and I remember that you were doing a comparison of all the different regenerative villages that you had researched on, and it was inspiring. It was great to learn more about who's doing what, how are they doing it, what's working, what's not working. So it's absolutely essential for the industry. So thank you for supporting us with that work. So what does regeneration mean to you specifically? Like, what does, when you think of regeneration, first of all, when did you first hear the term, or when did it kind of resonate with you? Was it just those 6 years ago? And then what does it mean to you specifically?
Yes. So understanding kind of the timeline of my introduction to eco-villages, which is like a systems exit of like, we understand that the system in which we live does not function, is actually dysfunctional and degrading our systems upon which we depend for life,
100%.
which is so hard to contend with. It's so hard to look into the future and question if there's going to be a future.
Exactly.
I think, the past 6 years of really digging into the eco-village movement that started in the 70s, I've been able to clock this new wave of regenerative principles manifesting in these systems exit society. I believe regenerative villages are a type of societal redesign that is only possible at the local
100%.
community scale. So over this past year has really been my deepening into regeneration as a concept, how it's integrating all of the information that we have available to us, all of these really cutting edge frameworks that are being applied to create truly regenerative systems of high integrity that don't compromise on values, that don't compromise on like, well, you know, the intention to be regenerative is there, the intention to be eco is there, and it goes much beyond being eco-friendly. So now we get to look at how do we do whole systems redesign of all aspects of how we live, how we consume, and how we relate.
Excellent, excellent.
And I want to talk about too, the article that you mentioned was a comparison of the top 10, my top 10 favorite regenerative villages. And I think, you know, the first two, like 10 and 9 on the list, don't even exist yet. Like they're just an idea. So that gives you an idea of how emergent and nascent the space of regenerative village design is.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting to be able to document and research this field.
Be at the forefront and find out. And you know, again, it's what we were saying earlier. It's a bit utopic, but we are going in that direction. And it's, you know, we're calling it conscious civilization design is what we call it at Smart Green Group. It's really, you know, and just that has to happen. And it starts with, you know, shifting your mindset and having a whole systems perspective on it. So, and the exciting thing is that there's, at least the intention is there. And again, there's a lot of people that have that intention and that are committed to doing this. So we are eventually going to get there. So what specifically, tell me a little bit more about the current projects that you are involved with. You know, you just started with the Eco Villa not too long ago. I mean, what would you like to share with us about the different projects that you're working on as priorities?
Oh my gosh, way too many. But you know what? I live and breathe my work because I feel like the reason I'm in this meat suit, the reason I came to live in this experience is to help with the proliferation of regenerative villages. So I am currently, I've been working for the startup Regen Tribe, which is helping with startup societies, these more network state-based regenerative neighborhoods, like fully self-sufficient, you know, off-grid communities that are deeply infused with tech. And I started, you know, that was a year and a half that I started with them. 3 years ago, I founded Serenity, which is now has evolved into more of like a research syndicate where I'm coordinating different groups that are collecting information and data about what it takes to build a regenerative village, best practices, and the environmental impact that eco-villages and regenerative villages already have. On top of that, with Serenity, I run a publication. I launched it a month and a half ago, and it's already received like a lot of positive feedback and success. Thank you.
I'm thoroughly enjoying reading all of it, so I'm glad that you put that out. So thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. Awesome.
Thank you. It's definitely the synthesis of these 6 years of research, and also just what I feel is my unique perspective. And so on top of those projects, somehow I managed to find time to design a regenerative village on 200 hectares in Sardinia, Italy, and build a village AI bot, and
Amazing.
produce a month-long accelerator course set to be at Ecovia in 2025, February, which is like a deep dive into how to design, build, and operate regenerative villages. This is something I'm doing in collaboration with Rebuild, Biome, which is a design studio, and the Global Eco Village Network.
Beautiful.
And and Regen Tribe and Trinity, obviously. And then so Ecovia you mentioned. Okay, so this one's really exciting. They are the only eco-village, modern eco-village that I've seen that has been able to scale. They currently have 2 locations, and they also have properties in other places in Costa Rica where they're based, and a property in Sicily and Italy. So I feel really blessed to be at this forefront of like, what does it look like to develop a regenerative village and a conscious, purpose-driven community, but very modern, very professional, and very infused with like all the efficiency of a development company, but all of the holistic heart of a community-led development.
Beautiful. Amazing. Wow. Such incredible projects and all that you're working on at the moment. It's a lot to take in. And the Sardinia project, I read a little bit about it. That seems super exciting. You were documenting a little bit of your journey, working with the landowners, and that's an aspect of this work that I think is is essential. It's super important to actually have those owners be able to have the willpower to really want to be able to go with you on this path and on this journey of regeneration for the project. So awesome. I'm excited to see how that progresses as well. So tell me a little bit more about, for example, how do you show up as far as your daily life? Just like, how do you embody regeneration, or what do you see, maybe what changes you have seen in your own life as, you became aware of regeneration out there, and how do you work this in not just in the regenerative development projects that are land-based, but just in your daily life as you're going through your life?
Honestly, I've really adopted this type of social regeneration where I feel like we all need to learn to embrace our own paces and our own rhythms.
Nurturing yourself.
I'm going to do a vulnerable share where I don't tell many people this, but I actually fall on the autistic spectrum. And so my social battery is much lower than other people's, which is so ironic for someone who loves community. Someone who I know is developing a regenerative village in the UK. She's also a bit introverted, and she says she hates people, but she loves community. And I always find that like funny and really relatable to me. So what I've had to do in my personal journey of like designing systems that are supportive to everyone and inclusive to everyone, no matter how neurodivergent they might be. Like I also have a sister who has a mental disability. So I look more deeply at like the culture design and like how can we be inclusive? How can we not like,
so important.
how do we like deactivate from like the need to go and be super efficient and like really more embrace like, okay, like how can we move at a pace that where we get stuff done, but we don't exhaust ourselves, because we all freaking know what burnout feels like.
Yes,
I think like you're a change maker.
Yeah.
I consider myself a change maker. Our whole audience is probably full of change makers. And so to be highly passionate and driven, if you drive yourself so intensely in the name of a mission, you're gonna fizzle. No, that's not what we want.
No, and thank you for sharing that. That's essential. It's super important. We've all been through this process of burnout, and that's one of the key things that I actually learned in my regenerative leadership journey was specifically that. It's like you can't really nurture you can't nurture the world if you're not nurtured, and so that's been a change that I've been adopting. And like, when I have to take a step back, you take a step back and you nurture yourself. It's absolutely essential, and it starts with regenerating yourself first. So thank you for sharing that. And I also resonated with what you said with regards to community and introvert, because my personality is also that way. I'm like, how do I do this? So thank you so much. So is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we close out here? Anything that you'd like to say to our RegenWeek watchers, and for the closing of this small mini interview that I'd like to continue? We could go on forever here, but thank you.
Well, actually, I want to dive a little bit into more of this misconception, maybe that community has to be so people-driven, only focused on the collective. I think the sweet spot of building truly regenerative communities is where you carve out like these private spaces while leveraging all of the benefits. Like there are so many perks to living in community that people don't see, or they're scared of, because they're like, well, I have to share everything. It's like, no, that's not the principle. It's like you get to leverage a community abundance, shared abundance. You get to leverage sharing space for the common benefit of all. So yeah, there is space for like people who are much more individualistic within these new collectives, these new types of communities. So it's definitely a misconception that people have.
I've been toying with that idea, so thank you for sharing. Thank you. Any closing comments?
Yeah, I'm just so humbled that you're reading the Serenity publication. It's like my baby.
I love it. Every time you post something, I'm like, okay, I gotta go read it. I subscribe to the Substack as well. So
yeah, you're
awesome.
amazing.
Thank you for doing all that research. It's quite impressive, and it's incredible, and it's absolutely needed. So I really, really appreciate it. I'm sure everybody else out there does as well. And thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you, love you, and just enjoy the rest of the week with everybody else. Let's keep catalyzing.
Yes, let's keep catalyzing. Well, aren't we so blessed to be here at Regen Week with, what's your last name? Brady Headland, right? Yeah, okay. Can we start over? Yeah, okay.
You got
That's
it.
that's the first one I've had to start over. I'd rather like stop and get it right. Well, aren't we so blessed to be here at Regen Week with Brady Headland, a super experienced community builder. He has so much wisdom under his belt of the trial and error of creating community and innovative community models. He's created conscious co-living spaces in Costa Rica, Nicaragua, 2 conscious co-living spaces in Bali, and his journey has led him to Mexico and now to be a nomadic community builder. So I am really curious to know your personal story of regeneration and what regeneration means to you.
Yeah, well, my story around regeneration really started about 5 years ago when I discovered how connected we are to nature and how much right now nature is going through a lot of challenges. And so regeneration to me is really creating a space or a piece of land and improving it, making it better than how it was when we first got there. A lot of the soil is getting degraded, a lot of the air is getting polluted, a lot of the water is getting ruined. And so to be able to regenerate the land, to me, is something that so many of us are feeling called to do. So super exciting.
And how are you called? What was your calling?
So I think the calling started at Punta Mona, which many of you may be familiar of, in Costa Rica. I went to a mastermind event there 5 years ago, and I just really saw how integrated everything was in the land there. And there was, I think, 100 of us were staying on this land, and we were all eating from the land right there. And I've never really witnessed that in to that degree before. And I just felt so inspired by that, and I felt so nourished. I felt energetically different by being on that land and eating from that land and having so many like-minded people there. It just really inspired me, and seeing so many people that were in that regenerative space was so inspiring and really got me into the whole regenerative world.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's like this awakening moment for you, for sure. You know, and as community builders, we continue to cross paths, you and I find it interesting and would love to know the ways in which you apply this kind of realization that you had of the value of regenerative living into the creation of communities.
Yeah, so I mean, it really, communities is such a perfect example of how to bring in regeneration, because we're building physical space, we're living on the land, we're ideally living from the fruit that we're producing and the food that we're producing. And so it's the perfect way for regeneration. And there's so many different aspects to that. There's, what are the building materials that we're using? What are the systems that we're using? How are we powering the place? Are we using solar? Are we using hydro? Are we using, different types of energy that is not causing more harm to the environment? And there's so many different layers to that. And there's also the human layer too. It's what consciousness are we bringing into the space? How are we inspiring other people? If we're bringing people in and showing them how we can really live this way, it inspires them to go home and go back to wherever they're from and start introducing those practices and those ways of living and being in their home as well. So.
Yeah, I think Brady is a little bit humble about his work and the community building he's done so far. He created this incredible space in Bali and was the visionary of a community project called Sanctuary, which he relocated to Puerto Escondido in Mexico. And I think it's really interesting, some of the lessons you've learned along the way. Can you share a little bit about the lessons you've learned, as well as the exciting, innovative co-ownership model that you have going on right now in the community space that you're building?
Oh, the lessons I've learned. For anyone that's been in the community building space for a while, have probably all come across different challenges and different aspects that bring challenges. There's the human challenge, which is definitely one of the big ones. For me, one thing that I've learned that I think is the biggest thing was around, I come from a traditional entrepreneur background. And so for me, it's like, okay, get everything dialed in, get the land, get the financial model, get the pitch deck, get all of the information you can possibly need, and then go and raise the money based on a very, very particular set of information. And what I learned is that usually by the time I actually get all of those pieces of information together, there's something about the land, either land gets sold or the owner changes their mind or something shifts. And so what I've learned from that is actually to get people onboarded to the vision, to get people onboarded on the actual project itself, not necessarily meaning a specific property or piece of land, but just the idea and the concept so that the funds are there and ready to go. And so when we do come across that piece of land, we're ready to go right there and then, because I've ran into 3 different situations where by the time I actually raised the funds and got everything ready to go, the land either got sold or the owner changed their mind or the owner changed the price. And so that's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned within that. And yeah, I think the other big lesson is coherence. Really making sure that the people that are coming into the project are in coherence, are in alignment. We're truly on the same path, and we want the same goals, and we want to create something very, very similar. Because if there's a little bit of dissonance that exists within that, things can become a little bit difficult. So those are the 2 big keys that I will share. And yeah, about the model. So essentially what I've created is kind of a hybrid between a shared ownership model and a timeshare model. And so essentially how it works is people buy into the project or they contribute their time and energy into the project. And that creates a total value of the project based on the total money in, and we quantify the time and energy by a value, and that creates a total, and everybody owns a percentage of this total piece of the pie. And within this total piece, we have X number of rooms available on the property, and we multiply that by the total number of days per year. And that essentially gives a total number of room nights per year that's available. And that gets divided up by all of the people that have contributed in. So it's really a complete equitable way for people to join and exist into the community. And it's also a really easy way for people to enter in and to exit out. And so I find sometimes it's really difficult when people, they buy in and then they're kind of stuck. And it puts them into this place where a little bit of animosity or a little bit of extra challenges can come in. Whereas in this way, people can contribute as much or as little as they want, and they can get rewarded for that contribution, and they can enter and exit really easily as well. So I find that to be a really great way for a community to thrive, both short-term and long-term.
See, I really resonate with this thing that he shared around it's not necessarily the place, it's the people. So when you're building community, one community hack is to focus on gaining momentum in the group of people. And that way you can take it wherever you find, because certainly it's disheartening to run into a challenge around land or legal agreements, etc. And so this model that you just described really hones in on like the social regeneration, right? It makes it accessible to people. It makes it, it gives them options as ways to buy in with time or with equity and value that they're bringing. So what's really exciting you about like your looking forward? We kind of talked about your journey through this, the lessons learned. What is really exciting you around, what's next and where the community project is going?
Yeah, I think what's really exciting to me, especially being here this week, is noticing the systems and the foundations that are being structured around this movement. Seeing a lot of people from the financial sector, a lot of people from the permaculture sector, like all of these different areas that are really required to build a successful community, they're starting to gain more structure and more momentum altogether. And so seeing that, it gives me a lot of hope in order to really bring this, not only for myself, but for the whole, if we want to call it an industry, for the whole community building industry. I see a lot of forward momentum, and I think for a lot of the communities out there, funding is one of the biggest challenges. And I'm seeing a lot of funding partnerships coming in, a lot of funds that are being created, and within that, the systems can really be created in order for these to grow and to have more longevity and more reduced risk. And so that's really exciting to me.
Yes, I'm excited by those very same things, to see this confluence of people coming together from different sectors to create these regenerative communities. So, describe to me what a day in the life of your regenerative community would look like.
What a day in a life would look like? Well, I would say, for me, the dream is to, I always like to have a little bit of morning movement, and I like to have some shared morning movement. So as part of the community, we can all, whether it's a fitness or yoga or something, starting the day with morning movement, followed by some meditation, and then a nice healthy breakfast. And I really love to be focused during the day, and so having a creative workspace where everybody can work and collaborate in a space that feels really nourishing. And in the evening, I love different types of workshops that can create a deeper connection between people, create some inspiration. And so having a lot of different options for people to join different types of workshops or different things. And what I really love is creating a space that encourages people to connect. And so people are moving through the space and just happen to be connecting because of the spaces that they're in. And so just that natural, organic connections that happen throughout the day because of the way the space is designed. And obviously a nice, healthy, hearty, connected dinner. I think dining experiences really play a huge role in creating a successful community. Breaking bread together, sharing stories, and just enjoying healthy food is something that I really, really value. So I think that's pretty simple, but I think that's what I really desire, is simplicity. And not having, a lot of these communities I find have a lot of okay, we need to have this a meeting here and a meeting there and do this and do that. And I like to have my own sovereignty and space and privacy, but while also being able to really interconnect and collaborate with people. So.
Yeah, same. I desire that, and I think the simplicity is actually what we're trying to return to in a sense, but through the modern lens of we're returning to this simplistic shared life, but not losing any of the beauty of complexity as well that we have available to us.
Totally.
So real quick, and maybe one or two sentences, what do you see the role of this connection that you talked about? What is the role of connection in allowing us to regenerate ourselves and the planet?
I think human connection is lacking a lot in modern society. Definitely. And I really believe that creating spaces and creating like-minded people and bringing them together creates deeper connection, and I think that's what we're all deeply desiring. And so really being able to have a space that nurtures that, encourages that. Sometimes we need a space that is allocated for authentically relating together and creating the deeper conversations and the deeper experiences together, because if we're caught in our day-to-day lives, sometimes that gets missed. And so creating space for that, to me, feels really, really important.
Yes, I can speak personally that Brady is very well versed in relating authentically to other humans. So you're a good example of, how I think a healthy example of the masculine energy and the way in which we can communicate and should communicate between ourselves. So thank you for all the work that you're doing to heal and hold space and connect authentically. Do you have any requests for support, in this quest that you have?
Well, a few $1 million would always be helpful.
To do what?
To build out the space, acquire the land. That's probably the biggest obstacle right now is getting the funding in and securing the land and building everything out. And so anyone that's in the world of funding would love to speak to any funders out there.
Yeah, so where can funders find you or find more about your project?
So you can find me personally at Brady's_life on Instagram, and yeah, you can reach out via email at brady@expand.community.
Yeah, and there you can receive the full vision of the sanctuary. I'm not sure if it's still called that, but the concept of a very holistic, wellness-centered, connection-centered community that Brady has conceived and masterminded. So thank you for being with us
Thank
here
you.
at Regen Week, continuing to weave and build community.
Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm. We are here at RegenWeek with the magnanimous Mandeep. He is a filmmaker, an artistic thinker, and the founder of Radio to Loom. So,
Hello,
Hello.
Nicole. How are you?
I am calm and I am present. How are
Great.
you today?
It's very important. I'm great. We had a wonderful event last night, and the camaraderie and the community that's been gathered around under this Regen Week has been just magnanimous. I'm just so beautifully impressed at all the gathering of knowledge in our space and all the wonderful things that everybody is doing to focus into a future. And proud to have it at Radio Tulum, in fact, because it deserves that beautiful movement into the future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Also, we want to thank Mandeep for being a venue for Regen Week. Radio Tulum obviously focuses on creating a space for people to use their imagination, and you obviously sponsor, independent voices. That seems to be important to you.
It's very important. I think that the root change that happens is coming from the further corners of our cities, and those independent voices that are echoing are what penetrates a larger cultural shift. The ones that we don't hear about. So yeah, Radio Tulum is sort of a force of nature in that way, where I tell the artist, please come and scream for an hour. You know, it's not just about your survival, it's about you discovering yourself. The relationship between the audience a very important motivation for me that we need to give them what they need at the risk of ourselves more than what they want. Mm-hmm. And it's been always the case. We built it 10 years ago. It's the 10-year anniversary. And it's always been the case. We built it on this idea of generosity of spirit. When in Mexico, things get taken away from you for the corrupt reasons, and my bar was taken away, and I was like, what are you going to do? Are you going to become the thing that embitters you, or you're going to maintain your strength of generosity of spirit? And that's the title. Aside from Hear the Love, it's there's always these little phrases underneath the Radio Tulum moniker. It's been recently more about of consequence. That's another phrase. How can we be of consequence, and largely on the human level?
Thank you for all of the intentionality that you bring to the local community through this generosity of spirit. It seems to me, and this is, can I ask you?
Ask me anything you want. I'm totally, fully open to answer everything.
Yeah, can I ask you how you see the role of art and media in the regenerative movement?
Oh, well, in the regenerative
or in
movement.
Any social movement.
Okay. I think art is important, but the greatness of technology that has served to create so many artists and so much, and what it suffers sometimes with is, I'm sorry to say, mediocrity. When so much is happening, I say in a song on my rock opera, I have so many friends who have style and substance, and we can improvise like rock stars at the drop of a hat. But I think a thing is made in the subtraction. And I think art needs to be subtracted and pulled. Just like any movement, as we create a movement, whether it be regen or anything else, we need to continue to subtract. Subtract its root, subtract what we're trying to say, readjust it, realign it. Think like chess players, run parallel notations around the thing itself on attacking it from different spaces. So art specifically, I don't even want to go to media. Media is just another whole, owned by 5 companies, but we don't need to have that rhetoric. But it's the human condition also is suffering from a barrage of media. And so, but as art is a very important tool, but only if artists, I believe, echo their truth. That has been really evaluated and created within the depth of understanding for the art itself. But you know, in the rise of mediocrity, in this over barrage of art, I use the hard word. I don't think there's anything wrong with expression. In fact, my whole work and my whole life has been about self-expression. If we solve self-expression, we solve a lot of issues. If we create safe environments, bringing it back to Radio to Loom, and artists to scream, I want your self-expression. I want you to work, and that's a long road. It's not like tomorrow you're going to have self-expression. It's a long road. All ideas, whether it's regeneration or recapitulating a thing we already know, because regeneration we already know, right? It's just recapitulating it. It's re-honoring it. It's re-examining it. And so it's in the expression and the movement by which you find those ideas and you express it. So art, when it's really thought about over time, or something expressed in a deep level, will touch us more deeper than a lot of the stuff around the media that's wrapped around. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Even a small expression is of value to all of us. So I think that it has a great importance. I mean, I just made a movie, and its ending is a rock star turns to a poet, which he's always been, but he gave up his song. And he tries to write a book that he thinks, like Whitman thought when he wrote Song of Myself. Whitman thought that there'd be no civil war. And at first, he also believes that this book could have this effect, but he ends up burning the book. So it's like the film itself is not of importance to the fact that I did it, that somebody instigated me to say, hey, can we please make a movie? I'm sick of survival. I said, let's write a 40-character film and let's ride our dreams to the end of eternity and become infinite, and we that's the thing of it, it's not the art itself. I think that we need to raise humans that want to express. Life should become art. Like, we should do everything. So that's the importance of art. Everything in our life, everything in our existence should not even be worded as art. It should just be creativity and expression and full of life.
Yes. So you may know Mandeep as a contrarian thinker, someone with very good taste in music, so I hear, as well as someone who speaks very poetically on different issues. And one of these themes for you seems to be personal expression and the human story.
Yeah.
So how do you see, what is your human story when it comes to, we might say regeneration, but we could also say re-examination of how we live, like you said.
I mean, regeneration is a great word. I'm regenerating all the time.
My cells are regenerating right now.
Exactly. I mean, I destroy to rebuild all the time. We live in seasons. With winter, the branches are filled without leaves, and the leaves are regenerated. So every year I try to do something bigger than me, which is regenerate myself, okay, I don't know, I'm not even a musician, but I want to create a rock opera. And I'm going to curate an 11-piece band, and I'm going to go out on the stage and leave it all behind. That's regeneration to me. I want to make a film, and everybody will deny me, like, what the hell are you doing? But let's regenerate our ideas. In regeneration, I think, as I opened the talk, it's already there. We know regeneration, right? So for me, it's not only, it's self-examination, yes, it's all of those things, but I think I live that concept, the concept of regeneration, concept of knowing that I have to live about 20 lives in this one life that I have so far. And that's root cause is to regenerate your ideas, regenerate your focus. Also finish the unfinished. That's very important to me.
Yes, as anyone who's ever done an artistic endeavor, you know, there's a lot of open tabs that you can leave to finish what is necessary.
Yeah, that's also very necessary. You can't carry all that, I don't know if I could swear, but you can't carry all that stuff. I won't swear. I won't make it more dramatic for you. But yeah, you're carrying all that stuff on your back while you're creating something else. And I think another word I often use is we're accumulating data, right? There's data. And we came to realize in the internet age, in the beginning of the internet, we thought knowledge, oh my God, we would be disseminated and given free rein. It would even out the playing field. We'll have access to all this data. But knowledge was never the answer, right? It's an accumulation of thought. So what's the answer is the assimilation of the data, the separation, especially nowadays, talking about media, you have to really kind of scour through all this stuff. And you have to assimilate. You have to assimilate, redirect, regenerate, whatever those words are. And they're just words until you start to understand its concepts. Like love isn't just love. Community isn't community. Community is responsibility. Love is in grace and in kindness and what you do in the action of service. That's the concept of it, right? So the concept of regeneration. The vegan, why to become vegan is compassion. So those are the underneath layer of these concepts are quite crucial for us to communicate these larger, broader ideas and in service, all these great men that Brad and Regeneration has gathered together. I mean, profound thinkers and, I'll use the word, thought leaders that are guiding these principles. But I think that we need to keep working and layering the conceptual desires and those parallel things.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question in a roundabout way, but
it doesn't even matter. What was expressed, and that's the important part of like whatever your raw expression is, right? That's art. Yeah. And I want to thank you for creating that space, because art is always a vehicle for social change, right? And it allows thought leaders to express themselves. Yeah. And so you creating this space for people to express themselves in a raw way is so important. It's like just these like exquisite spaces where something true and raw and real can come to life. Yeah. And so thank you for all of like what Radio Tulum offers to the community. Is there any request or support that the community could give back?
Hey, we could always use support.
In what form? Don't be shy.
In form of funding. I mean, our bills are way too high and I have to go work. It's not been a business for a long time, so we could always use support. I could use support to have finishing funds for my film, I'm just kidding, which is called Behind the Light. But support, just, if we meet somewhere down the road in the next years of Regen, also just the support of them coming back and having some thought processes. But monetarily support, sure, we're creating a GoFundMe page to make sure we can stay focused on what we do rather than be in the inertia of short-term thinking, which is the risk for us all to try to veer the business into a shape because we need something right away. So I don't even know. I'm not one to ask, but
that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. So if you care about art and independent voices, connect with Mandeep. What's the best way to reach you? Just show up at Radio Tulum and ask.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, just show up at Radio Tulum. Email us at radiotulum1@gmail.com.
Number one, like Radio Tulum 1?
The number one, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And listen to our radio station, download the app, and hang out with us. We're launching Radio Film TV. We have over 7,000 hours of content that I've gathered together as a record of this place and the world and humans that we will be releasing soon. That would be a good thing to fund, you know, because we have so much incredible conversations that we've been doing, and music, and music, and music.
Yes.
What Leonard Cohen said, I know that we're about to finish, and I just redid this song for my rock opera. It says, raising your fist for the ones like us who are oppressed by the figures of beauty. You fix yourself. You said, ah, well, never mind. We're ugly, but we have the music. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandeep. That's your call to action if you want to support, consume their media, their art, and everything.
Yeah, just come over and give me a hug.
Oh, we all need hugs.